Welcome to the Digital Design and Sustainable Futures, the Goals, a webinar hosted by the Digital Fashion Group Academy. I'm Livia Pinay, and I will be your host today. I'm a digital professor for research at the Digital Fashion Group Academy. It's not going to be an easy job to be a host today, especially when you're following the words of Sir David Attenborough and Dame Vivienne Westwood, and also preceded this amazing group of speakers willing to discuss the role of digital fashion in sustainability. As Sir David Attenborough reminds us, if we act now, we can yet put it right. And this very special set of people today here with us is giving their best to see some action happening. So we have today Alexia Planas Lee, founding partner and head of impact design and innovation at the Circular Fashion Summit by lablaco. Hi, Alexia.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much for being here. We have Evelyn Mora, CEO and co-founder of the Digital Village. Hello, Evelyn.
Hi.
Thank you so much for being here. And also we have Olga Shensheva, Chief Officer Sustainability at Dressex. Hi, Olga.
Hi, everyone.
Hello. And Roy Dergi, founder and creative director at Placebo Digital Fashion House. Hi, Roy.
Hey, thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for being here. And to close the panel, Marinisha Munilal, academic consultant and digital professor at the Digital Fashion Group Academy. Hi, Marinisha.
Hi, Livia. Hi, everyone.
Hello. Well, this webinar is the first of a series dedicated to sustainability and digitalization through the fashion supply chain. In this first session, we will be discussing the Sustainable Development Goals in the fashion industry. So are you familiar with the SDGs? Developed by the United Nations, the Sustainable Development Goals is a plan of action for people, the planet, and prosperity to deliver greater transparency and accountability. There are 70 goals with an overall aim to completely end poverty, take care of, and protect the environment, and ensure international prosperity for all people. The vision of the SDGs subscribes to the theory that one issue can tackle other issues, such as climate change, economic inequality, innovation, and sustainable consumption, among others. When we talk about sustainability in fashion, what most easily comes to our head is environmental issues and how to reduce consumption. But this is just a part of a very complex reality. The 5 speakers today are going to help us to understand how we can act and move towards a more sustainable and fairer fashion system. Remember our audience that you can participate through the polls during the session. They will appear to you. And you also can send questions to our participants for the Q&A at the end of the session, just using here the Q&A tool here on Zoom. And you also can chat using the chat box to send your thoughts, okay? Shall we start? I will start with Alexia because she's in an airport right now and she maybe need to jump off the webinar. So thank you so much for taking some time for being here. And let's start listening from Alexia. What does circular fashion system mean? And how digital fashion and technology such as IoT can help to make it happen?
So the circular fashion system is essentially one that we're all aiming towards, and it's one where waste is avoided. That would be the perfect circular fashion system. And how we're moving towards it is by trying to use resources that already exist to create new ones. So to not have to use virgin resources or not have to produce at all. And we see that, for example, with digital fashion, because there's essentially 3 stages of the garments where improvement can be made, which is the materials. So when you're sourcing what materials you work with, the process, which is the design and production process, and consumption. So how are people consuming and what do they do with that garment after they don't want to use it anymore? So in the case of digital fashion, we can see how it's helping at materials level with the selection of materials. So now there's actually companies doing excellent renderings of materials. So you don't need to ship those samples anymore, and then those samples ending up in waste for every single brand or designer that wants to work with them. You can now choose them online. With process, it's helping with the So there's digital design software such as Clo 3D that allow you to visualize your designs on your laptop or on your phone. So before you produce them. So like before, if you wanted to compare two different hues of red, or you wanted to see how your print looks on your jacket, then you need to create that sample physically and then throw it away, like just discard the one that you're not selecting. So with these digital softwares, you're able to put that on screen, see it, and not have to physically make it. And then at consumption level, we have digital fashion companies such as DressX here. We have Olga, and IODF is another great one. So what they're doing is they're really expanding the opportunities that consumers have on how to consume fashion. And so, for example, at the Circular Fashion Summit, we had one of our partners, Vogue Singapore, that made a sweatshirt, a digital sweatshirt created by DressX. And it was designed by a really fantastic designer in China called Angel Chen. And then this jacket was available, or this sweatshirt was available for the attendees of the summit to wear. And people were super excited to wear it. Like, I mean, I would say at least like 40% at a time in the room was wearing this sweatshirt. So clearly there's a lot of interest in wearing this branded clothing. And I mean, in this case, the Circular Fashion Summit is held in VR, so that would be the only way to dress. But in the real world, right, we have options. So we have physical or now digital. And the reason why this is a game changer is because in our current society, there's a lot of people that actually just buy clothing to wear it and to flaunt it on social media. And I know I see Olga nodding. I won't take too much of I know this is like your area of expertise, but essentially with influencers, for example, every time you want an influencer to promote your garment, you need to send it to them. And that is shipping and a garment that they might not even like. So they're probably just wearing it once and then you don't know what they're doing with it. Whereas now you could potentially send them the digital twin and they can wear it via AR, which is augmented reality, which is like you put on your phone and it projects the garment on you. And then you can take a photo which looks equally as great and then post that on Instagram. So that's another application in which it can be used. And yeah, we see it also works for prototyping, AR try-ons in general. So if you're shopping online and you want to see what color suits you better, you can try it on now from home. You don't need to order from, say, Farfetch, all the different colors and then give back the one that you don't want. So that is some of the ways in which digital fashion can be applied. In terms of IoT technologies, which is what we're working at with at lablaco as well, what this allows is tracing of garments journeys end to end. So what this allows is for consumers to be able to learn the whole journey of this garment, and for the brand as well to be able to follow it. So, for example, we launched a IoT rental system with H&M a few months ago in their store in Berlin. And what this enabled them is for them to track their products at a consumption level. So what this is doing is digitizing and also promoting rental to keep clothes in the loop.
That's great. Some great initiatives coming on. And now moving to Evelyn. And Evelyn, please, how do you believe digital fashion can help us to achieve the SDGs? For example, the goal 12, which is responsible consumption and production, how digital fashion can help towards responsible consumption?
It's a big question. Yeah, I think we're thinking too small as an industry. We are repeating the same things in all the seminars, in all the events. We're talking about 3D sampling, influencers. I mean, these are important elements, but we have to think about this in a large global scale. how digital fashion can actually impact the physical fashion, because I don't believe that you can replace physical fashion industry, which is what, like 800 billion US dollars, with digital fashion. But I do think that when it comes to consumption, our relationship to clothes, the ways we express ourselves can be influenced with digital fashion, but it's definitely not that black and white. And I just tweeted about it. I said that fashion hasn't entered the metaverse. It's an untapped opportunity yet to see, because anyone here who actually is part of the fashion industry understands what fashion industry is about. Fashion industry is about selling dreams and identities. It's so much more than just clothing. And I don't think that any fashion brand has, as of now, really elevated and used digital in a globally impactful way, which changes our physical consumption habits. We need to see impact. We need to reach the point where we can say that actually Gen Zers consume 20% less clothing than they used to before, like the previous year, right? We don't have tangible results to say that, yes, digital fashion can help make consumption or reduce consumption and make fashion more sustainable. We don't have the data. There is no real results. There is a lot of tech washing, saying that, you can replace physical with digital and you'll be more sustainable. But will you? Is there any proven facts that you actually consume less in the real world when you wear digital garments? And then is there a supply chain of those NFTs that you can trace, or are we actually copy pasting the dysfunctional, unsustainable fashion, real life fashion supply chain into the digital fashion space? In my opinion, we are far, far away from actually creating impact with digital fashion. A lot of brands out there are doing experiments. They are doing a lot of different testing and gathering data, but in reality, let's just put it out there. It's a fact that digital fashion hasn't created important, significant impact and results to make fashion more sustainable. So let's just get real. So will it happen? Can it happen? Sure. But just by promoting digital replacing physical or replacing your sampling with 3D design, it's not going to make it. Few projects here and there is not going to create results that we need to tackle climate change. So when we use these technologies or we advertise around them, we talk about different brands entering the metaverse. We need to be very careful as how we promote and advertise our companies. And another thing is, how do you pay these people who actually make the 3D design? Because they are real people. Do you pay them fairly? Are you bringing real value to designers' life, 3D designers' life, who are as important as the real world designers? Are you helping the brand that you are working with to actually consider their entire supply chain when they're adapting your services and tools? It's a bigger picture, bigger question, long-term task that I think we are in the process of going through. But yeah, we're far from it, because unfortunately, how we can do that, just to answer your question, Livia, is to do the real work that is necessary to do. Put the supply chain and traceability to your NFTs. Pay your 3D designers fairly. Don't exploit them. Okay? It's important, because what happened in Rana Plaza? What is circular fashion all about? What are we talking about? The same things over and over again. And then we just come up with another marketing pitch, and then we ignore the real things that we need to do. So if you talk about sustainability in the digital space, deliver impact, walk the talk, pay people what they deserve, because I'm going to call you out for greenwashing, you know? So that's what I think. We have a lot of work to do, but we have to start with the people who work in the industry to get real, be truthful, walk the talk, do the work, and then you deserve the recognition. Sorry.
No need to sorry at all. And actually that leads us to the next question to Roy, that was exactly about the designers. What is the role of the designer in adopting and translating the SDGs in their collections and trying to add sustainability? As Evelyn was saying, it's not just a simple matter of the designer try to design it in a more sustainable way. It's the whole supply chain that is involved, right? So in a creative process, how does it impact the creative process of the designer, the aesthetics? How do you believe this impact in creativity? And does it require a change of mindset? Do we need to think about all the SDGs before I start to drawing something?
First of all, it's a really, really good question. And I will try to answer it from the perspective of creative director and founder of a digital fashion house, because when we talk about physical fashion, I'm here in a panel with people that probably know better than me, and we can talk about how we can engage customer to maybe before we send to production, use digital fashion to see what will be sell and not just to create much more than we need, and etc. But if we will talk about digital fashion, I think that DFD, like digital fashion designers, their job is actually to reflect the present and to give a glimpse to the future. And I think it's an amazing job to do. It's to listen to your gut feeling. And this is an amazing job to do. Always fashion was about that and about identity. And when we're talking about the SDG, I think when we talk about sustainability, a lot of people talking about sustainability in a way that how it's actually impacting the environment. And from my point of view, and what we actually doing in Placebo is that we trying to see sustainability as a result of something else. It's how sustainability for us is how we actually define humans in the 21st century. Which kind of humans are we want to be? We have so much power, we have so much knowledge. And I think what's happening right now in this peak, I don't know if it's a peak, but in the digital revolution is that we see reconstructions of culture. Not long time ago, we show in LA Fashion Week, a collection that's called Metagenesis. And we use Yuval Noah Harari, if you know the author of Homo Sapiens, as part of our soundtrack. And we talk a lot about religion, because part of what's happening right now is that most of the time people go to religion to seek for answer for something. And what's happening right now is suddenly we don't need to look at the sky and ask questions as an authority. We suddenly have Google and we can get answer from them. And then we need to reflect it as a fashion designer. And this is an opportunity when you break something and reconstruct it, you have opportunity to define yourself as a new human. So from us, sustainability is empathy, is how the world becomes so small and we create empathy without any physical borders between countries. And all the result of SDG, gender equality, to be empathy to other people, to hunger, it's end up on everything and how we actually define ourselves in human. I always say that I think that no business will survive in the 21st century without engaging to spiritual. And when I'm saying spiritual, it's not about religion, it's about asking hard questions and to be transparent. And I think this is how we're going to see business grow in the 21st century. And when we talk about digital fashion in that case, I will say that I think it actually exploded, not because it's new thing or about fashion or about sustainability. I think that people looking for escapism, and I think people looking for a definition of themselves. And fashion is all about their identity. I mean, it's amazing when you can wake up tomorrow in the morning, go to your game and be a fairy, or the next day to be a masculine guy, or the day after to be a woman, and the day after to be a dragon. It's all about identity. And I think this was actually people looking for now. And when we as DFD, digital fashion designer, looking for design, we are trying to reflect those questions. In Placebo, I can say from the point of someone that dealing with a fashion house that called Placebo, we're trying to challenge people. We're trying to ask hard questions. We're trying to not do things that we don't believe are ethical. And we actually have some called out about those things, and people, we try not to give up to the FOMO that having right now around a lot of things without feeling comfortable doing those things. When it's come to blockchain, NFT, when it's come to talking about the metaverse, we will not do something when we don't feel completely 100% that we can sleep with ourselves at night without doing something that we think might be wrong. And I think this is the role of a fashion designer in the 21st century, to reflect, to give a glimpse into the future, and to try to create a better society through the art that close more to the body, through fashion. Yeah,
that's a good statement. And now moving from a perspective of the brand, Olga, and as a fashion brand, as a digital fashion marketplace, how can you see the drive of the consumer to this change for overconsumption in physical, for a more conscious consumption in digital garments?
Yes, sure. Well, let me start first to say that DressX was actually created as an answer to the overconsumption in the fashion industry. And our research showed that about 9% of the clothes people buy just only because they need to make a photo for the social media, and then they return these clothes. So our idea of DressX is to replace those 9% of the physical production of the clothes with the digital, so we can avoid the carbon foot emission, the water use, and the waste in the landfill from the fashion industry. And of course, it's not the easy task, because it's very hard to change people's mindset and to explain them that they need to spend money for something which doesn't exist physically, and it's just a photo, a beautiful photo of the garment for them. And this is actually what we were doing for last 1.5 years already. We are changing the perspective on the consumption. We are changing the perspective on how people need to think about their closet, and we want them to think about their closet beyond the physicality. And if they need to make an appearance in the digital world, we want them to think first about digital garments, about their digital avatars, and not to go and to buy physical things. And last year, in the beginning of last year, yes, already in 2022, we conducted a study. It was a very small and very basic study with a very short audience, a very short community we were able to build during the first 6 months of working of DressX. And our idea was to understand the reaction of the people who heard or tried already the digital garments. So our study showed that about 23% of people who participated in the study, that purchasing of digital garment can fulfill their need to buy a physical garment. Last year, it was 23%. This year, we are right now we are working on this study, and we will release the results quite soon. But I'm sure that these statistics will grow, because during this year, we had tremendous integration of the digital assets, digital fashion in everyday people's life. And maybe for those who haven't heard anything about digital fashion in the beginning of last year, at the beginning of this year, they at least heard and at least seen a photo in the magazine or in the journal. So people to become more aware about alternatives. And we are not saying that people should stop buying physical garments. No, we're just saying that there is an alternative for some use cases. Also coming back to those studies we conducted last year, we have 46% of respondents who already bought at least one digital garment. They say that they are going to buy another one. And 15% of those people who bought at least one digital garment in January 2021, 15% of them bought them because they wanted something new for their content, for their social media. So I think that I'm sure that this year, when we will show the results of our study and trying to evaluate some kind of the displacement rate between digital and physical, we will see the improvement, because it's been done a tremendous work of all the stakeholders in the digital fashion industry to explain how important the digital fashion is and how much can we save. For example, at DressX, we're trying to build the blueprint of the sustainability of the digital fashion. That's why we made the calculations. This was the first thing what we did. I conducted the very first study of the digital fashion sustainability, and I calculated.
Sorry to interrupt, but I conducted the first digital fashion sustainability report. If you haven't read it, you can read it. It was published in August 2020. Just so you know.
Okay, well, it was pretty at the same time. So, Evelyn, well, congratulations. We were the second. Okay, we were the second who published this digital sustainability report.
If they are very close to publish it, both of
Yes.
Be fine. And I think you should really contribute with each other to see this, that it grow even
exactly.
bigger.
And it was the Fabricant who published the report pretty the same time. So three of us, we did the research at pretty the same time, and we came up with a pretty the same estimation that digital fashion, the carbon footprint of the production of the digital garments emits only 3% of the carbon footprint in comparison to the production of the physical garments. Evelyn, you can correct me if your research showed something different, but I know that with Fabricant, we have the same results. And how we try to create another blueprint. We partnered with Farfetch in 2021, and we created an amazing use case. And I think this is a huge milestone for the fashion industry. So before we spoke about how digital fashion can be substituted by physical fashion for the clients, for everyday consumers. But what we did, we actually worked with the brand, and we created a partnership. We created a capsule collection, which were created initially only in digital and pure digital version, and we did all marketing campaign digitally. So all influencers were dressed digitally, all marketing materials, all people in the advertising were dressed digitally. And then the physical collection, it wasn't produced just after the marketing campaign. Farfetch collected the orders, and the physical garments were produced on pre-order basis. So that allows us to decrease the amount of time, waste, and money for the marketing campaign. But since we're talking about sustainability, with 40 garments which were created for this capsule collection, we saved 2.5 tons of carbon footprint and huge amount of water. We eliminate the waste because usually the influencers don't wear more than once the garment that they receive for the marketing campaign. And we change the production cycle. So instead of produce X amount of clothes, the production was on demand. So we produce what the clients need. Thus, we eliminate the waste, the resources, and the cost of this campaign. And I think this is a huge milestone. So we actually, to change the consumption habits of the fashion industry, we need to work in both ways, in the ways with education and showing the alternatives to the clients, but also together with the brands. And we show how that can be effective.
Yes, precisely. I think the subject is very complex, and we can tackle from different perspectives. We need to go to the transparency and the supply chain, but also we also need to tackle the consumption question and going directly with the consumer. But now going to Marinisha, last but not least, and exactly about like how complex the SDGs are and how the companies should tackle that. But what do you believe is the relevance of SDGs to fashion brands and companies, and the potential of growth for digital fashion and sustainable business practices in the future? Remember that we're not talking only about digital fashion to be worn, like it's not digital only fashion, but the way to produce fashion digitally.
Right, thanks. Thank you, Livia, for your question, and also to the other participants. It's really amazing to see how much growth there already is in digitizing fashion and also the value chain. I would like to address your question in two parts. First, I would like to respond on the relevance of the SDGs for fashion brands and companies. And what I would like to say there, and I know that this is repetitive because we probably all know this already, and that is, given the current linear supply chain, integrating the SDGs is, of course, of high relevance in order to modify to a circular supply chain. And if we look at reports and research from organizations like the Ellen MacArthur Foundation, last year I read a report, for example, that the impact of our industry is equivalent to a full garbage truck being dumped in a landfill every second. As an academic and as a lecturer, every time I give a lecture on the SDGs, it seems that these statistics get worse and worse. So every year I read worse statistics. Furthermore, human rights violations are unfortunately endemic in garment manufacturing. I think Evelyn also touched on that. A lack of gender, class, and racial diversity in senior job roles are still ever present. And of course, not to mention the toxic destruction of our natural environment and resources. Saying all this, however, the clothing and textile industry is nonetheless a fundamental economic backbone of our global economy. And therefore, it is essential that fashion as a whole adopts the SDGs on their own. So from the 17 goals and 169 targets, the UN specifically appointed 4 goals for the fashion industry to adopt. And those 4 main goals are SDG 4, 9, 12, and 13. There are actually other goals, and there are several other goals which can actually be implemented in the fashion value chain, but these are the 4 that the UN appointed for the industry specifically to adopt. So SDG 4 speaks to providing inclusive education at all levels. And what this means is that one of the targets for that is specific to fashion is to eradicate the early gender divide, where statistically more boys than girls attend school. Yet the fashion supply or value chain really comprises 80% women. SDG 9, which I think is, of course, interesting to this conversation on digitizing our industry, focuses on building resilient infrastructure, promoting inclusive and sustainable industrialization, and fostering innovation. A significant target within this goal for the fashion industry is to ensure that while technology is rapidly progressing, that we make sure that human labor will not get replaced by automation and does not disenfranchise workers, but rather for us to train those workers into more skilled positions and thereby allowing future generations to work alongside these technologies. SDG 12, which we've already spoken about quite a bit, I think, in this session, highlights the linearity of our current supply chain. And this makes it clear that new approaches to accelerate circular business models are really essential. And last but not least, under these 4, we have SDG 13, And this SDG begs to take urgent action to combat climate change, which is of course very broad, but it is one of the more fundamental SDGs in shifting focus within the industry in order to reduce a negative impact on the environment. So to answer the second part, and I'm going to come back to this in a minute, on what this really means. So to answer the second part of your question, the potential growth for digital fashion and sustainable business practices in the future, I believe will increase due to the expansion of artificial intelligence. And as you see with all our panelists, they are already busy with using these technologies. So not only artificial intelligence, but also technologies like blockchain are relevant for the future. Research also shows that there will be a demand for new skills as one of the fastest growing specializations. But the question here is, how will we practically use these skills to implement SDGs? And I would like to emphasize two phases in the value chain to explain this, and the first being design, and one further down the line, which is I've chosen the dyeing process or a dyeing phase to explain how this could look like from a digitized perspective. So both these phases can be linked to SDG 12. In the design phase, traditionally, research is based on trade shows and trend forecasting. But if AI were to be implemented in this phase, trend forecasting errors can be reduced by 50%. So Eurotech, for example, uses predictive analytics to analyze a product on specific attributes and receives data on real-time consumer preferences. And this information can be transferred into rapid prototyping and testing. This can reduce time and resources, and it can also accelerate the development of sustainable garments in the future. Furthermore, during the production phase, so if you go further down the supply chain, many chemicals and dyes are often retained in the finished textile. If I look also at my own research, I see that AI can help identify chemical waste during manufacturing processes, and in fact, really during the entirety of the supply chain. So starting from the use of pesticides. It can also predict concerns such as toxicity levels in the environment. And we can identify this information. When we can identify the information, it could significantly improve things like the health of the farmers and workers in the entire value chain. Another key development that could play a big part in making the value chain more transparent to the public is blockchain technology. Blockchain is, as many of you know, a decentralized distributed ledger that stores transactions sequentially. It means that you can only add to it, but not modify anything after the fact. So it can be thought of as a database that is shared across a public or private network. So using blockchain, I think, could add value to traceability. So for example, raw materials could be traced from their source all the way to the finished products. And so I think that there are undeniable benefits to digitizing fashion to create a more sustaining industry. I think it would be negligent for our industry to ignore the inception of innovative technologies. But at the same time, I also think that it is going to be a challenge for our industry to tackle the fear that one day we will completely rely on automation and efficiency and that humans will become obsolete. This is, of course, untrue. I think also things like the cost of AI will need to be addressed and made affordable for not only front-running incumbents, but also small, medium enterprises, as this is essential to ensure that another rise in the economic gap creates disparity in an already uneven supply chain. So I think, I think that's about it.
Yes,
for me.
thank you. I think was very complete. And actually, you tackle the next question, you tackle a little bit, and Evelyn already brought a little bit of it. But I want to hear from all of you, from all the 5 participants. The first 2 SDGs are no poverty and zero hunger. Do you believe that fashion has a role in these social developments? And how can we act? How can we reach them? It's a huge question, I know that. But some of the participants, the attendees, are also bringing the social issue. And I think this is the moment for us to talk about that. We already talked about some technical developments. So us as fashion professionals, not as brands, how can we work for these goals? How do you think? Who wants to start? Oh, we're so quiet now. Roy. Oh, Evelyn, go ahead.
Yeah, sorry about the interruption before. I just, I'm kind of fed up of discrediting and you know, not being real and honest in these panels. So that's my New Year resolution, to be honest and just catch things when they drop. So what's the role of fashion industry when it comes to poverty? And I think it's very important. I think Roy mentioned actually before, I think he would maybe have a good answer for this, but I loved how he kind of shifted the conversation away from environmental sustainability and into other aspects of sustainability. And I think in terms of poverty, sustainability is such a 360-degree aspect. And, you know, the environmental sustainability, the social sustainability, cultural, all is tied to financial sustainability as well. And I think that the digital fashion industry can change and basically create case studies or systems that can be proven functional in the online space and then further sort of scaled into the physical world. So I do think that fashion industry in general at large has obviously a huge role to play in, I think, most of the SDG goals. But in particular, I think what we are missing in the digital space is sort of new ways of doing it. I mean, obviously there is new ways of doing it, but what I'm trying to say is that instead of creating another platform that sells things in a traditional way, could we sell things differently? Could we, you know, how do we actually connect that into the physical fashion industry? Do I make sense? Like, I think that we need more case studies and ways of doing things, reinventing them essentially, rather than copy pasting the things that happen in the current industry. That was an underwhelming answer, but I'll just leave it there and give others.
But I think it's exactly one of the things we try to create in this kind of discussion is remember that we already have the knowledge enough from the old industry to make it happen differently from now on. So it's having this challenge.
But we are not doing it, Livia. You know?
Okay.
I don't think we are doing it. That's the thing.
Yeah, can I jump in, Livia?
Sure.
Yeah, I wanted to say that I agree with Evelyn because it's a lot of talk and no action. And when I was preparing for this, one of the things I love about doing something like this is that it also takes me out of my comfort zone as a lecturer, specifically in fashion, but makes me look on a wider level. And then I can go back into my research. And what I like is that I try to take examples from other industries, and I try to look at other industries. And yes, we do actually have the technology. So if you look at, for example, the Rainforest Alliance actually already used blockchain technology because they wanted to test what the difference would be between a minimum wage and a living wage. So companies were able to calculate the minimum income to the living income gap and send the extra payment straight to the farmers. So this does absolutely exist. Other industries are using it. And my question is just like Evelyn's, and I think all of you really sitting here, why are we not adopting as quickly?
Right. You wanted to say something before. Maybe you want to jump in? Or Olga is ready to
Yes,
talk.
well, what I would say, and from the experience of DressX, that at DressX we have a lot of designers from the developing countries, and I would say that we somehow contribute into the no poverty. Of course, it's not enough, but yet still with the 3D design and 3D designing, we give an opportunity at DressX for the young designers to represent themselves, to start the career. And you know, Olivia, that we discuss that with you, how we can help the graduates to start their career. And with 3D design, they don't need to invest into the textiles, into the samplings, and what they need is just only the knowledge of the software to be launched. What we do at DressX to support the young designers, for example, we help them with to build their community. And I know that not every 3D digital fashion platform does that, but at DressX, we allow the designers to bring their influencers and to bring their models, and we dress them for free. And we put those photos together with their garments on the website. So when the client comes and the client decides what to wear, it can see how this garment looks on the real person. And it's not just the 3D render, which is flying into the space. And this actually helped to get the designers help to sell their clothes. So yes, I understand that it's not enough, but from our side, we try to contribute that, and we work a lot with developing countries.
Yes, and that we also are seeing with with the rise of the digital fashion, many designers coming from in development countries, not only from the main areas here in Europe and the United States. This is interesting to see as a development, but also as an industry, we should make it happen actually, and creating real incentives for doing that, and not just starting from the designers, from the fashion students trying to jump in and we embracing them. No, we need to create the situations where they can embrace this.
Can I add something?
Sure.
I totally agree with you, Livia. And, my question is, why don't we publish transparently? What do we pay to these designers? Do we pay the developing country designers the same amount as we pay to the famous ones? Sorry, but
No, you're totally right.
no, but facts are facts. We're not paying them the same money that you're paying to some Instagram famous designer. You are not. So, how are we actually helping and changing the industry? Why don't we go transparent? Let's publish how much we pay these people. Why is it a secret?
At DressX, you can come and you can check the prices on the garments, and you can see that the prices are totally different, and that the designer who decide the price. So in our case, you can see that famous designer can get a very small amount just because he decided to put that price on the garment. And emerging 3D designer from the developing country, let's say we have a lot of Ukrainian designers, and you can see that the prices we are selling them are quite high. So I'm just talking about DressX and what do we do. I'm not talking right now about the whole industry.
Yes, absolutely. And actually, I would like to bring Alexia to the discussion about circularity and how the transparency in the supply chain can have a role of that. And I know that you haven't been a few studies about that and how this can be of course, everything is in a very early stage, but how do you see that as a possible future for the system?
Yeah, thank you. Actually wanted to also share our circular fashion report that we wrote in collaboration with, I'll send it over in the chat as well, or to you directly if that's easier. So I think this panel has been very interesting, especially to see very different opinions, and especially around digital fashion, which is the focus here within the grand scheme of fashion. Of course, digital fashion on its own is not going to save all of the problems. And I don't think that's what anyone came in here thinking. But it is a very important, let's say, breakage of the mold of how people perceive consumption. So a lot of people, I mean, because we're all kind of working with this, so we are well familiarized with the topic, but actually most people are still trying to understand why digital fashion even exists. So it's going to take some time to have this shift in mentality and for people to really understand and for digital fashion to really be implemented inside and integrated in the fashion system. So I would say it's a little bit maybe narrow to just look at how we are right now, or how much digital fashion has helped until right now. And we should look at the possibilities of where we're heading towards. And it's like, for example, if you look at the music industry, before, if you wanted a CD, you had to buy the physical copy. So everyone had to have their own physical copy. And now everyone's streaming the same file, the same digital file. So there's no waste being created. Of course, in fashion, sorry, that's the announcement. Of course, in fashion, we still need clothes for our physical selves. So it's different than the music industry or other industries, but it's definitely something that once it's adopted, it's going to save a lot of waste. So that is my take. I know I haven't fully answered the question that has been asked here, but I did want to kind of give my opinion on what has been talked about as a whole.
Perfect, thank you. Does anyone have anything to add, or can we move to our Q&A? We have 5 minutes, so I think it'll be one question at least. I have here one question from Alexandra Pisco. The energy consumption of blockchain is concerning. Are the developments in making blockchain technology more sustainable?
So I can maybe answer part of that. I think that your concern is relevant, and I do think that yes, blockchain technology is very interesting. I think that we need a lot more research into it. But I do think what's worrying and concerning is the amount of coal production that needs to take place in China for blockchain technology to exist. So this is, of course, the downside of something like blockchain technology. It is, again, this, this yin-yang idea. One part of it, of course, creates incredible transparency. But on the other hand, is it really more sustainable? Because we would have to look at the level of coal production to keep blockchain technology moving. So I think that for me is a very big question in terms of energy consumption, and also concerning whether blockchain really is ultimately sustainable. And I haven't read enough papers yet, and I don't myself have enough scientific information to actually say yay or nay, but it is a concerning problem.
I would like actually to add something to this question. I can say that from our side in Placebo, I think that what's actually really, really important in that case is actually to do your research, check out, read about blockchain, read about NFT, educate yourself, understand what does it mean POS and POW, and what is the difference between those two things. Because again, if I'm going back to what I talked before, that about not only sustainability in a way of how it's actually going to affect environment, even of how actually culture and value-wise we can use blockchain. I think I on LinkedIn this week, I actually published like a post of my unpopular, very unpopular opinion about the metaverse and about blockchain. And I think there is something that happened right now that it is a little bit disappointed when you see that, because people use blockchain not in a way that can actually bring people together. We can use blockchain on DAO. We can create company and give other people opportunity from abroad or from developing countries to take part in a company and to take part on the decisions, and not just use it as a greedy way just to create a big income from something that not necessarily you can always promise that you can execute. So I think there is a lot of hype right now around blockchain, when I think blockchain is amazing. I think you just need to understand how to use it in an ethical way, and around NFT. So I think that there is a lot of more research to do. I think there is a lot more questions that we need to ask ourselves. And as every hype in history, it will come, it will wash, and actually the important things will stay. My very unpopular opinion about blockchain and metaverse.
Yes, exactly. I think we have time for just one question that we still have on our Q&A. It's a question from Emily. It's also about the same topic. Digital fashion design is being coined as more sustainable, but energy consumption translates to carbon emissions, especially with tech beyond initial recurrent digital production. Do you agree that interested digital fashion is linked to economic, not people and the planet?
Well, let me address this question, just because the digital fashion address X was created to answer to those environmental issues for the fashion industry. And since we are trying to create the blueprint of the industry, we are doing everything we can do to address all these issues and to track our carbon footprint and to operate in the most sustainable way. And like I said, since we're creating the blueprint of the industry, we want that any other stakeholders in this industry try to do the same thing. So for me, for DressX, the digital fashion is not about money and economy. It's first of all about creating alternative, sustainable way of the fashion industry.
Exactly. Well, we have everyone wants to add something. We are closing our panel. So I think we should just end, and you can say goodbye to the participants and to all the attendees. It was a great crowd. Actually, the chat was burning all the time. It was amazing to see how much are you engaging and discussing. Thank you so much, Evelyn. Thank you so much, Marinisha. Thank you so much, Olga. Thank you, Roy. Thank you, Alexia. It was a great discussion, and I'm sure that all of you are eager to continue in another opportunity. Okay, just to remind you.
Thank you, Livia. Wonderful discussion. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The recorded discussion will be available on our website in a few days, and we continue the Digital Design and Sustainable Future series next month in February 18, same hour. So see you all there. Thank you so much.